So was there ever a time that is there any stories that stick out in particular as far as like crazy stories of trying to get somewhere or to get an interview done or anything like that? I ask because when I went to Baltimore for StarCast 4, that was one of those trips that literally everything that could have happened all at once. My boss lost my paperwork, and then 2 days beforehand, I didn't know if I was going to get to go. And then on the way back from Baltimore, we were stuck in the airport for like 12 hours waiting for the flight. Like it was all over the place. So have you ever had any like interviews where you had like a hell of a ride to get there?
Well, I feel like a lot of the interviews have involved me either driving long distances or flying or whatever it happens to be. But one that really sticks out for me is when I did that interview with Chris Jericho last year. And it's the infamous sitting in the back seat with Chris Jericho, thing. And I know I met Jericho, was introduced to Jericho through a mutual friend. So I said, hey, I see you're doing this live podcast thing in Ocala, which is like a 4-ish hour drive from where I live. I said, if you're doing that thing, could we do an interview? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I went up there and first of all, I get to it's like a warehouse where they're doing this interview. And there's like a line of all the people that are waiting to get in. And I text Chris Jericho and I go, hey, I'm here. And he goes, I'm in the black car by the door. I'm standing next to a black car. And I'm like, doesn't look like he's in this thing. So I like tap on the window. I'm like, is Chris Jericho in there? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay. So I call him. I'm like, I'm at the black car. Where are you? He's like, I see you. Turn around. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's already like strange and weird that like, he's like, let's do the interview in the car. Cause as soon as we leave the car, the fans are going to be making lots of noise and that won't be good for the interview. So we do this interview and it was basically the first interview he did after signing with AEW. And I'm like, I got to get this thing online as quickly as I possibly can. So I went up there with my buddy, who's my cameraman, Daniel. He's awesome. And I said, I think you're going to have to drive back so I can start editing this interview on the 4-hour drive back. So I'm editing away and then the computer battery starts to die. So we have to stop at some rest stations so I can plug in the computer so that we can start to export this file. Anyway, long story short, we spent the entire drive back just editing and fixing this video up, stopping at various places because my computer kept dying. Finally got home at whatever time and then like immediately put it up. And now it's one of my most watched interviews, all worth this hassle.